Road Rash is one of my favourite series of games. It's not just limited to the 32-bit version, which I'm looking at here, even going back to the Mega Drive. It was one of my favourites, and also on the Game Gear. Loved it. It was probably one of the reasons I got into motorbikes, to be honest. This and Super Hang-On. But it was just the sort of the feeling of openness that you had on the bike that kind of translated into real life and eventually made me want to get a motorbike. But what we're looking at here is the 32-bit version of Road Rash. First came out on the PC and the 3DO. A lot of people say that the 3DO version is the best version, but I just wanted to have a quick look at the three different console versions, not the PC one. And what you're seeing here is the peninsula level from the 3DO version. You'll notice at the side of the screens that it's cropped weirdly. It's just because the way that my recording device works, it kind of records the screen in like a complete square, so it looks a bit odd if I have it just fully showing. But yeah, I mean, the 3DO version looks quite nice. It moves quite slickly. There's nothing really wrong with it. This is the PlayStation 1 version. Again, apologies for the weird cropping, but you'll note that the colour palette is slightly different. And I don't think that's got anything to do with the way that I recorded it. It's just, even if I put the PlayStation onto a TV, it looks slightly different. The colour's slightly more, is it cyan or purple? Anyway, I'm going to shut up now and just let you look at the images on the screen. So this is the Sega Saturn version. Again, you'll note that the colour palette is slightly different, and also the sound of the motorbike is slightly lower, looks a little more like a 4-stroke than what it was in the other two. It could be down to the bike, but I'm pretty certain that all the bikes sound slightly different in the Saturn version than they do in the PlayStation and 3DO versions. I mean, for all intents and purposes, they do look pretty much identical, all three, but it's the colour palette is slightly altered in all three. I also looked at the buildings in each of the three versions, and they do appear to be initially the same, but then as you get further into the level, you get ones or textures in the other ones that aren't in the other ones, if that makes sense. Here we've gone back to the 3DO game. To be honest, if you put them all, I know I'm doing these in sequence, but if you put them all side by side, you'd be hard pushed really to tell the difference from this video. It's more to do with when you're playing it. One thing I have noticed that in the PlayStation and the Saturn version, the frames of animation of the rider, they're quite erratic. Because there's no analog control, you have to basically tap left and right control to move, and sometimes this extra frame of animation kind of pops in, and I've noticed it specifically on the Saturn version where the bike seems to almost look like it's sideways, which is quite off-putting when you're, in a corner and it looks like you've basically turned the bike sideways and you have to overcorrect, and then you end up sort of careering into the opposite wall. Again, here we've got the PlayStation version, different colour palette again. Other than that, there's not really that much of a difference between all three versions. The sprites at the side of the course are the same, the buildings are pretty much the same, the draw distance is pretty much the same. Yeah, but again, I'm going to stop talking now and just let you enjoy watching this. again, just watching this back after I've recorded it and put it all together on the timeline, the PlayStation version does seem a lot faster than the Saturn version, even like when you sort of flat out. Just to be clear, I'm using actual Saturn, PlayStation and 3DO to record this, and yeah, they're all PAL, so I don't know if that's got anything to do with it, I doubt it, but yeah, the PlayStation version did seem a lot faster in that last clip. This is a different track. This is Sierra Nevada. Again, I just wanted to show what the you know, how the engine works when it's not got loads of buildings and things in it, and you know, there's a bit more open space. You can see the track kind of building itself in the background. That's not it's not so intrusive, really, to be honest. You don't really notice it when you're playing. Obviously now I'm just sat here watching it and talking, I can look at it, but yeah, again, this is the 3DO. It moves well enough. Obviously it came out on the 3DO first, and the PlayStation and Saturn versions came later. That was a bit of a mishap there. And yeah, I remember on the Mega Drive one, if you tapped your, I think it was the B button, you ran faster towards your bike, but it doesn't actually work in this version, which is annoying. Again, the PlayStation version, it seems to be a lot more vibrant, the colour palette, and also the drawing isn't as subtle as it is in the 3DO version. It kind of just appears in blocks in the distance, whereas the 3DO seems to have this almost like a fogging effect where the textures are kind of faded in. I know it's not, but if you go back and like look at the drawing on the 3DO clip before this one, you'll see what I mean. I think it's cool. They've all got like sort of independently moving clouds. You don't really notice that when you're playing, but again, sitting here and watching it and just flapping my lips while I'm taking this in, you can see that the sprites of the clouds are all kind of independently moving off the kind of mountain range background. So yeah, here we are back in Saturn land, and again this doesn't have the sort of nice fade-in effect that the 3DO one has. The pop-in is actually quite a lot more noticeable actually in this version than the other two. I don't know if I'm just saying that because I've just seen the other two, I don't know. Another thing is the sprites, the little characters that were stood at the side of the track. There seem to be a lot more on the 3DO. Certainly on this track, as you're driving around, there's a lot more hazards, blokes stood in the middle of the road with a cup of tea, and just like trackside people just like out in the middle of nowhere. Whereas on the Saturn and the PlayStation version, they've cut back on those quite a bit. It's quite noticeable actually at the start of this race. I don't know if you want to go back and look at the start of the 3DO one, you probably don't because you're not that bothered. But yeah, there's quite a few more people stood around at the start of the race. I don't know if that's anything to do with performance or what. I doubt it. It's probably just they can't be bothered putting more sprites in because there's no point. But yeah, here we go back to the 3DO, and this will probably prove me wrong now, but I'm pretty certain there's more like random people stood at the side of the track. There probably won't be now, knowing me. But yeah, if you look towards the background, you'll see the fading effect I'm talking about. It's only very slightly noticeable, but it's certainly noticeable. Especially when you get onto the PlayStation and Saturn clips that are coming up next. Right, I'm sick of my own voice now, so I'm going to stop. Oh, one last thing is, on this clip, this particular section, where that road kind of forks, I've tried to keep going to the left on each one, just to show that the same portion of track. And I've managed to do it on the PlayStation one coming up, but on the Saturn one at the end, a car comes and smashes me into the other one, so that's why I end up in the opposite like route. So yeah, and then back into the city again on the Sierra Nevada course. Anyway, again, I'm going to shut up and let you just watch in peace. So yeah, coming to the end of the video now, I hope you've enjoyed watching this little look at the 3 different console versions. Obviously there's a PC version as well, which I've never played it, but I'm guessing it's going to be better than the console one for the time that it came out. Yeah, this is where I got hit off the bike, and well, I didn't get hit, I actually just ran over a shrub, and as you can see at the bottom of the screen, my bike is totaled.